All right, you guys, we got Isaac Ho now. I'm super excited to have him on the call and on the video. So Isaac, how's it going, brother?
Hey man, it's going good, Tyler. Thanks.
Awesome, man. So you're a part of this unconventional tools muscle imbalances program that Rick's putting together, and you have a really unique thing. We had somebody on the call a while back talk about it. It's called strain counter strain. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Isaac?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about in this version of the unusual tools is the classic strain counter strain.
Sure.
So there's actually a couple different versions of strain counter strain, and I'm not sure who you had on, but he probably practiced what they called hold and fold, where you'll fold someone over and hold them there, and that's what I kind of showed people. That's classic strain counter strain. And what we go over. But there's actually a different strain counter strain, which is a little bit more advanced, which is the deep fascia strain counter strain,
Okay.
which is more neural, arterial, and lymphatics. So if you're really thinking about what strain counter strain is, because I know it's muscle imbalance is revealed, is a lot of times people are training and a lot of muscle imbalance can be tone, right? So improper tone. A lot of people will come and say they want to be toned. Unfortunately, don't realize, like, if I pinch your traps or your SCM, and it's overtoned, then it's not going to feel
Then
good,
it's a
right?
muscle imbalance, right?
Yeah, it's a muscle imbalance, right? So is that muscle really, like, overtoned, or what's going on there? So part of it is positioning, but then part of it also is just can be what we call reflex strain. So strain counter strain is this idea that if you have muscles that are in a strained position, that the goal is to actually shorten them, let them rest, and take them out of it so they no longer have that reflex strain. And the idea with that is that a lot of these muscles, you get two different signals. So basically, not to get too scientific, and I talk about it a little in my presentation, but if you were to reach out and touch a hot stove, your body would send a signal that that's hot, that hurts, and you would get what we call an afferent motor signal that tells your spinal cord or your brain that that's hurts, and then your muscles would get another signal, which we call an efferent motor signal, and you would pull your hand away from that.
Sure.
So the idea with most people when they go, oh, my traps are too tight, is that we grab your traps and we just squish them until they no longer hurt anymore.
Right.
And that's kind of the idea of taking that motor signal that's telling you to be tight and relaxing it. The idea with strain counter strain is to actually shorten that muscle and go straight to the first motor signal instead of just the messenger signal. Does that make sense?
So you're kind of bypassing the so a lot of people walk around chronically tight, and no degree of massage is going to permanently help them. It might temporarily help them, but then that original signal is going to come right back and bring them back into their position. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So very similar to that, and not to say that no degree of massage would help them. It's just that I found that it could take a really long time to work on somebody.
Sure.
Right. That and like like a lot of fitness professionals out there are always looking for the way to make their clients feel better. And some people do it with stretching, and some people do it with traditional massage like friction and compressions. And then some people will do passive shortening, which is really what strain counter strain is. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think the goal is as a health practitioner, maybe as a fitness person, is you want to do your best without hurting that person, because there's also a legal
Sure.
part to it. You don't want to get in trouble. So
Yeah.
that's why I picked that modality specifically to show, because a lot of people can just hold someone in one position, and it's almost like we call it reverse stretching. Like if I was to stretch my client, I would pull them into an uncomfortable position. Oh, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, breathe into it. Now you open up a little bit more. It's the opposite. Does that hurt? Okay, good. Let me just fold it over. So does that hurt anymore? No, it doesn't hurt. Cool. Let me just hold you here, and then it goes away.
Okay, I gotcha. So your principle of reverse stretching isn't taking to somebody to that 90 or 100% tensile limit. That doesn't work in the long run.
Exactly, right? It's the opposite. Instead of stretching the pecs if they don't feel good, I shorten the pecs and I hold it there so they don't have to support the pec stress anymore. Then when I take it out, there's some more stress on the pecs.
Interesting. So you're actually literally just taking the opposite motion, right? So
Exactly.
if you take
That's why I call it reverse stretching. They
reverse
don't really
stretching.
think about it like that in strain counter strain.
Yeah.
But when I thought, like, the best way to really explain it to people that don't know what strain counter strain is, you also hear it taught as muscle approximation and positional release, right? Because muscle approximation is taking a muscle, shortening it, and then it dies out. So you call it reverse stretching, you can call it muscle approximation. The true strain counter strain came up with the idea, and they have a different system of doing it. A lot of these other systems that might call it approximation and things like that are not quite following the system, they're following the principles.
Okay. I gotcha. How long does it take, and how do you know? Like, so the example with the chest. Let's use that, right? A lot of people have tight chests. A lot of people have slumped shoulders, bad posture. And what you're saying is, most people, they put their arms in the doorway and they stretch their chest or whatever they're doing. They try to open their chest up. But what you're doing is essentially bringing their chest all the way hugged forward so that the muscles are forward but relaxed. Correct?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it has to be passive.
Yeah. Okay. It has to be passive but relaxed. And so those muscles. How long do you hold that position for those muscles to let go?
So in classic counter strain, like the one that I showed there, it's a 90-second hold
Okay.
with a 70% reduction of tonus. So basically, when I first palpate, let's say I find a spot in your pecs and I say, oh, is that tender? And we know tight muscles and improper tone are tender. So when I take you into that position, I repalpate, does that still hurt? And then it's my job as a clinician to actually shorten it to a point where it's at the same spot and no longer hurts. And then I'll sit there for about 90 seconds, slowly take you out of it, and you should see at least a 70% increase for a successful treatment.
Wow.
So it's 90 seconds is the standard. If you ever hear someone say, oh, I held someone for 90 seconds and they can call it whatever they want, that's the protocol that Dr. Larry Jones, who created that, found that 90 what it was. And if he went under 90 seconds, he wouldn't get the full effects of it. And a lot of people still like to hold 90 seconds even. There's a facilitated counter strain where what they'll do is they'll shorten and they'll have you move with it, and they can literally make a spot go away in like a second. But the difference between the 90 seconds and taking the, quote, pain away in 90 seconds compared to the facilitated is that you actually get a lot of lymphatic and other great benefits with the 90-second hold, because you're letting that muscle really relax. Now, you can get rid of it different ways, but that true 90-second hold actually has a lot more benefits than just what you might think.
Right, right. So do you do a test retest kind of method? So would you measure how much range of motion someone would get and then hold it down and then measure how much range of motion someone would get again? Or how do you test that, whether you're really making true progress?
Yeah, so what we actually do, and when you go to the seminars, is they show you kind of how to chart and look for reflex dysfunction. So what they'll do is they'll mix. Sometimes you'll see them actually mix MET, muscle energy techniques, where they will do that range of motion testing with the strain counter strain. And you might even see, like, I was at one seminar for a strain counter strain, and they did some strain counter strain, and then they did some MET, and the person's range of motion was a lot better. I think one thing to kind of get away from is that a lot of people think that necessarily having more range of motion is better. And I'm not necessarily a believer that more range of motion is better. Right, it's a controlled range of motion.
I was going to say, my belief is very simple. It's that the range of motion you have, you should have stability in that range of motion. If you have stability in that range of motion, then you can have as much range of motion as you want, as long as you can create stability in it. But as soon as you can't create stability, like if somebody can do the side splits, but they can't fire any muscles when they're in the side splits, now you're just asking for somebody to pull your groin out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But exactly. If you can do like the Jean-Claude Van Damme, where your legs are up between the rings and you're in the side splits holding yourself up, then you probably have enough stability in that range of motion at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So you can use range of motion testing for joints. But what I actually do as a clinician, and it might be out of scope, is I palpate out. And what they teach you to do is you can actually feel on tissue where it sticks. So unhealthy tissue stick differently. So like a good strain counter strain person can run their hand down your body and just know all the points that you're going to have. Okay. And they can just feel it, and they'll stop, they'll hit it. And it's enough. I mean, they can hit it, you'll jump off the table. It's really surprising how painful it can be. And then once they shorten it and they fix the structure, take you out of the process, they repalpate and the pain's completely gone. So it's pretty crazy stuff when you see it done in person, because you would never think that you could take a spot where it was so tender and so painful that like I had the first time I went, the president of Strain Counter Strain worked on me, and he just did the whole body scan, which is almost 400 points. And I was sweating. I was flipping off the table because it hurt so bad. But the thing is, they can fix it like that. But yeah, it was incredibly painful. I could not believe the spots that they found.
This is all very interesting stuff. So is this something that somebody can apply on themselves?
It is, yeah. There's actually what we call homework positional releases that you can do. Now, it depends on the positions. And for example, there's one for sciatica that I use a lot, that a lot of people will come in, and if they have it, I'll give it to them as homework, and they'll hold it. I usually give them, because by the time they get in position, they hold it for 2 minutes. And I'll do that as well. Like, for example, if something's bothering me, I'll just shorten structures. There's some structures on the quad ones where you find a tender point, you squeeze the quad together, and you kind of rotate it. You can do it to yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone else doing it to you. Some are really hard. Like there's some knee ones where you have to actually flex the knee underneath the table, internally rotate, and then apply traction. There's no way you're getting all that by yourself. So some of them you can do by yourself, some of them you can't.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. So Isaac, so how can people learn more about you? How can they learn more about your practice, your gym, and everything?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that you can look for me. You can look for isaacbfitlife.com. So it's ISAACBEFITLIFE.com.
Perfect.
That's my main blog site. I usually try not to post anything too geeky on there just because, most people are going to read it and just have no idea what it's talking about. If you're looking at actually just training services or reading a little bit about me, you can just go to bfittacoma.com, BEFIT, and then the city of Tacoma.
And you're Tacoma, Washington, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Tacoma,
okay, yeah. So if you guys are in Tacoma, Washington, you got an ache and a pain, then go see Isaac. That's definitely a thing to do. One more thing, Isaac, before we take off. So what specifically did you cover in the Unconventional Tools edition?
Oh, great question. So I covered a little bit about backgrounds and different modalities that I've seen. One thing that I really thought was great about it was that I took you through basic ones that I really used a lot. So there were some hip ones, there were some low back ones, there were some that nagging upper back pain that people get between the shoulder blades, where it's like, man, it's been killing me for like a week. I showed that one. I showed some rotator cuff releases. I showed like we were talking about pecs, which they don't call them pecs, they call them AT6 points because they're an osteopathic modality. So I've kind of taken a lot of the osteopathic text and rewritten it for conventional trainers to understand it better. And I just showed a lot of basic ones, and at the end I gave resources of books that you could get, ways you could teach yourself, and things like that. I also included a lot of pictures so you can see not only the instructions but what it actually looks like.
Awesome, man. That's fantastic. Well, I'll definitely be watching that. That's going to be cool. I like to get some new information on some books. I think I'm tapped out on the Arnold's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. No, I'm just kidding. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much, Isaac. We got Travis Stetzel coming up next talking about sledgehammers and tires. So thank you so much, Isaac.
Hey, no problem.